AskReddit by Fury Phoenix. What's something that's illegal, but is the right thing to do? In the US, emergency prescription refill, for example insulin, when prescriber is unavailable. Not legal in all states, but it's the right thing to do. It depends. Small town doctor's offices sure, but for example both my PCP and neurologist are through a large university medical system, and have on-call physicians for emergencies like this. I've had the on-call neurologist help me a few times. They don't normally do a full refill but enough to last me until I can talk to my actual provider. When I worked in a bakery, I'd garbage bag up all the pastries at the end of the day as instructed, but then just threw them in my trunk to drop off at the homeless encampment instead of tossing in dumpster. So stupid to waste food. I worked in a grocery store as a teen, and was appalled when I found out how much stock we threw out not because it was expired, but because we had more than we'd likely sell before it expired, and needed the floor space. Especially after all the combating shrink training we got. You're telling me after I spent 3 hours remaining vigilant that someone is going to steal $5 worth of stock from us, my manager is instructing me to dump a pallet of unexpired orange juice because it's necessary? Make it make sense. Mercy killing terminally injured wildlife. Although humane, it's illegal AF around here. A few years ago, I hit a deer. It was definitely paralyzed in its back half. I called Game and Fish, and told them if they weren't there in 10 minutes I was shooting the deer. They said don't do that, but we could take up to an hour to get there. I could tell by the way the lady spoke that I should do the right thing. Sucked, but I would want to be put down quickly too. This was out in the middle of nowhere, and I made a safe, responsible shot from a few feet away. Violating copyright laws to archive media. Especially when someone has purchased that media and the access to said media is removed. Deleted. I'm imagining you really talking him up during the interview. You mean to tell me that right now one person is doing all this for your company? Sounds like a superhero. You must be paying this person very well because they sound amazing. Not sure if this fits here, but I worked for a Class 1 railroad as a conductor for many years. On occasion I would come across some people who would ride freight trains. If the moment warranted, I would take them up and hide them in the second or third locomotive. I'd ask them not to touch anything until ALO. Make them coffee and give them a sandwich. Never backfired on me. First time I've ever heard of a RR employee doing this. Good on you. Human euthanasia. Cannot understand how we won't let our pets suffer but we'll let our parents, children, friends die a slow death. Come to Canada, we'd be glad to euthanize you and your loved ones if needed. Pirating stuff that isn't available anymore. I mean, TBH, with how unethical the massive game media corporations are nowadays, you could almost argue just pirating stuff, in general. Feeding the homeless. I was fired for homing the foodless. Whistleblowing on unsafe or unethical practices. Employees who expose illegal, unsafe, or unethical practices within their organization may do so by sharing confidential information, technically breaking laws or contracts regarding confidentiality. They argue that the public's right to know and the potential to prevent harm outweighs those legal boundaries. I blew the whistle once on my manager massively breaking the law. I got fired and the cunt is still there. Rain barrels. I think most of the laws have been overturned at this point, but some states had blanket laws that restricted the collection of water on your own property, preventing the natural runoff still water from landowners downstream. Rain barrels are one thing, as are retention ponds, but we've got tons of illegal dams on waterways in Texas, enough to fill several lakes. Not great. https://www.kazan.com/news/Texas illegal dam iron mason county blocking water from refilling highland lakes housing the homeless at a church is illegal apparently. https://www.newsweek.com/pastor-charge-housing-homeless-church-sparks-fury-1862426 Obviously laws are different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but we house homeless on our church property and told them that the Constitution protects the free exercise of our religion and on our property, they had no jurisdiction. We have housed homeless people for years, getting them back into our society. Inspired by Curb Your Enthusiasm, giving water to people waiting in line to vote in Georgia. Just don't put hair dye on a lawn jockey. I worked at Sonic, as well as a grocery store, and tiny Mexican place. Giving food that would otherwise be thrown away to someone begging. I had a manager at Sonic who would make sure they got food at the end of the day and would look the other way while the Carharps cooks bagged it all up and took it out to them. Same at the tiny Mexican food place. I had no idea that was illegal because honestly what the fuck, why would it be? The grocery store was independently run and religious, shocker that they're the assholes who would do shit like pour bleach in the dumpsters after throwing food out. Religious people trying to make the chaff suffer more. Saw a woman stealing baby formula at the grocery store. Turns out that day I was blind in my left eye and 43% blind in my right eye. Didn't see anything. I can't even see you, sir. In some countries, being a girl and going to school. Jaywalking, if it's safe and there's no traffic. Jaywalking is only illegal so that if you're hit, you can't try and claim fault. I picked up weed for my grandmother. She was trying to get sober from alcohol after it nearly killed her and took her ability to walk. Steal an abused pet. I see absolutely nothing morally wrong with this. However, don't do this with people you know, like your neighbors. Get someone from another town to do it and trade the favor when they have a similar situation in their town. My sister grew up around a bunch of shitheads. My family has a bunch of wonderful rescue animals, if you catch my drift. Feeding the homeless in cities that have ordinances against it. Giving water to voters, and feeding homeless people. Now in some states of the USA, it's illegal to give water to people lining up to vote. It's also illegal to protect voters from people who are harassing them. So, as long as you're being asshole you can give people water because it's illegal to stop you, the system works. Dumpster diving trashed books from bookstores. And selling books without covers. My friends and I used to dumpster dive Borders books and take truckloads of books and magazines to the recycling center. They rip off the cover and return it to the manufacturer. I'm fine with dumpster diving for a trashed book you weren't going to pay for in the first place, but selling a stripped book is a fee since it's a sale of the author's work that they never were paid for in the first place, unlike, say, a used book, where they were paid for the initial sale. Feeding the homeless. Civil disobedience.